This is the scan that I received back from the scanning source. You'll notice that there's some defects in the work. You notice the tick point registration marks. And you notice these four corners here. There's also the tick marks. And at the very top, there's some distortions. And at the bottom, you'll notice there's tick marks as well. We're going to use these in the next part to align our image and then crop our image. So I'm going to clean up the work in GIMP first, and I'm adding grid lines here to correct the alignment on the scan. And I've just added 2 grid lines here, and I'm aligning them to the registration points from the scan. And I'm just going to zoom in to see how they line up, and I notice that it's a little off, as I would expect from any scanning process. It'll never be perfect. So I'm going to rotate it in a clockwise direction, just subtly. And I'm going to click rotate here. I'm going to zoom in to see if that worked first, and then I'm going to click rotate. And while it's rotating, the next step that needs to be cleaned up is that 2 more things. We need to create a perfectly square image that is centered on the center point of the circular border. That center point tick registration point is very important. And there's a little secret of doing this, and I'm going to show you how to do that. The second thing we're going to need to do is clean up artifacts from the scan itself. And these are small dark marks that appeared from the scanning table, as the scanning table must not have been cleaned properly. And I'm going to show you how to do that. And the rotation is now complete. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move these grid lines to the center. I could create more, or I could simply move them. And I'm going to do that here. I get them roughly in place at this size, or this zoom level. I'm going to move the second one, and that intersects it. And then I'm going to zoom in to the center there and make sure that they're absolutely perfectly centered. And you see that they're a little bit off, as you would expect. And now I'm going to get that perfectly centered on the mark. That's excellent. I'm going to zoom back out to the full extent of the image here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a selection. And that's a selection box that will go around the circle. I'm going to use a fixed aspect ratio of 1:1, meaning that it'll be a perfect square. And I'm going to roughly draw it in over the circle. And then I'm going to click and drag. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And then I'm going to click and drag so that little tick mark there appears and snaps to the grid line. And that's how you get it perfectly centered on the image itself. And then what I do is I go to crop to selection, and then I would actually crop the image to that. And I'm going to show you this one more time just so it's clear. So I'm going to resize it. I'm going to make it a little bit larger. And then I'm going to click inside the circle, drag it a little bit so that that little center point snaps to the grid lines. And then I go image, crop to selection. And that's it. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use a fuzzy brush here, and I'm going to change my color to white. I'm going to change the size of the fuzzy brush to something very large. And then I'm just going to go over the defects that I have in the image and paint them out so that they're on a canvas or white background. And that's basically all you need to do to clean up your image. So I've called up the image in Inkscape, and I have 2 grid lines that I created. And I'm just showing you how to create one here in Inkscape. You just pull it down from the ruler to get rid of it, make it go red, and then hit the delete key. This is the bitmap image, and I just used path trace bitmap to create the vectorized version of that. And then what I'm showing here is the alignment, and using the alignment tools to perfectly center that. And this is the vector representation of the bitmap image that I pulled in to Inkscape. And you notice it's a dark black color. I'm just going to turn it red here to show you that it is a vector representation of that. I'm going to turn it back to black, and then I'm going to turn off the vector representation. I'm going to show you the rings, and these rings were created in Inkscape alone. And then the last layer I'm going to show you is this medallion that fits on top. Now what I did was I turned everything off except for these, and then I exported this to a PNG file, and then the PNG file was brought into GIMP, and I did this editing or cleanup work. And then I added that little bevel piece there, and then I mirrored this on the other side and did the same cleanup work here. And then I ran an effect called bevels, and I used you could use bright metal or you could use glowing metal on a yellow image, and that's what it came up with. And the last thing here is just the Gothic C that I wanted to show you.